Social media. What else I'm going to be talking to you about? Social media. But social media in our everyday life. I feel like we are divided. Our entire society is divided into supporters and anti-social media people. We are now really into it because it's making $1 million to some people and it's amazing to connect with family and all the rest. And people are in a different camp when they say that you have to delete Facebook, get off Instagram, and those big corporations are trying to eat your soul. Neither way is the right way, I believe. And I really want to introduce a different view. And I want to try and look at it from a little bit of a scientific point of view without scare tactics, without fear, without taking sides, and without tribalism. Interestingly, it is actually a little bit about tribalism, I believe. I met with Loretta Bruning, and she is an author, and she also writes for Psychology Today Australia, and she's the author of Habits of a Happy Brain, and she's been talking a lot about how our brains are wired and why we're seeking to pick up our phone and look into check out our social media, just stare at this thing all the time. I really don't want us to feel like it's a negative thing to do, and I don't want us to feel about it as if we should be doing more of it. Honestly, I just think we should understand why the heck we're doing it. And with this understanding, I think we can make a better decision whether to use it or not. I say there is too much emotion in this whole topic. Maybe we just need to dial down just a little bit. And Loretta got together with me, and I'm really grateful for that because she explained a little bit why we hanging on to this social media thing and how this is a little bit about being a part of a herd. Let's listen in.
So I feel there's so many emotions. People just are so invested emotionally in a piece of technology. And I thought, this is crazy. There's so much emotion and so little science in it that people take either side quite easily and never really dig into it. And I think once you understand what it is, you just use it or don't use it. And you don't really have to feel that way.
Yeah,
And
you don't have to be so mad about other people using it. Yeah.
yes.
Well,
and so I don't want to take any sides. I want to hear how you see it and whether you feel like you're taking camps or you've encountered that as well, maybe.
well, I certainly encounter a lot the emotion that people have specifically against it. And rather than just the two groups that you mentioned, I think there's another significant group, which is the people who use it but are made to feel guilty about it because they've been told it's bad, right? So, so of the people who are for it, and they don't speak up anymore because everyone says that it's bad now. So my interest, of course, this is not my expertise in this particular area, but I'm interested in herd thinking. So I'd be interested in your expertise in this area. But the herd thinking and the hell in a handbasket thinking. So what I remind people is, like, every year there's the disaster of the year or the disease of the month, you know. So if you remember, like a couple of years ago, everyone was worried about their gut bacteria was the cause of all problems, you know, and, you know, sleep hygiene crisis. So every year there's another crisis that people are convinced to worry about. And in the media, there's this effort to appear like the latest information, which effectively means jumping onto the latest bandwagon and rushing into the latest crisis that people are afraid everyone wants to read. People think everyone wants to read about out of fear. And one thing that interests me is when the internet first came out, I so remember, you know, all, you know, people say, oh, this is going to be a bad thing. So the really funny thing, I recently read this book. When writing was first invented, Socrates was against writing. He thought, this new technology is evil. It's going to make people lazy and stupid. And Socrates never wrote anything. And fascinating. So the people who lived around when writing became important: Socrates, Jesus, Buddha, and Confucius. And all of them never wrote a word. All of their writing was done by their followers because they thought writing is going to corrupt people and they're going to lose their ability to remember stuff, you know. So in addition to all that, when people say that social media is going to ruin our social relationships, these are often the same people who are then very critical of all the social relationships people had. So it's an automatic impulse to criticize, in my opinion. And I feel like I see it, everyone sees it, you know, through the bias of their own lens. But my lens is, as a college professor, people learned in college to criticize. And they learned that if you criticize, you sound intelligent. And in fact, if you don't even do the reading, but you're just angrily against something, then that makes you sound like you know what you're talking about. But if you're not against something, then you might actually be judged, and then you have to defend. And so it's easier to be accepted when you criticize something. So what I always explain is that mammals bond around common enemies. So whenever there's no enemy, mammals like to disperse because it's easier to find your own patch of grass. Whenever there's a predator, then they stick, they stick closer together. So people with common enemies stick together and they feel united, and it lowers the barriers between people when you only focus on how much you hate this third party rather than you don't worry about the differences between you. So that's what people do. And all day, every day, if you listen to whoever you're with, you can immediately hear them bonding around whatever is the common enemy of that group of people.